Hello friends and welcome to the YouTube channel of TBL Education Private Limited, where we help you upskill yourself every day by adding a little bit of value. And today we're going to be talking about finding the perfect staff. I'm Xavier Menezes from Mumbai, and this is the latest video in our module that teaches you how to succeed on your startup journey. And a big part of finding success with a startup is finding the perfect staff. You cannot run a startup alone. Even if the idea is completely yours, at some point you will need help. You will need a staff of people who will work alongside you. And in the early stages, the staff is going to be vital because they're not going to be regular workers. It is recommended that you think of your first staff as co founders, only one step below the people who have actually founded the company with you. These are the employees that would probably get a section of the equity. These are the employees that are probably going to be the most important to you. At a stage when your company will be vulnerable, when your company will be shaky and in its earliest form, these employees will help you turn your company into something brilliant. They will be the first people who trust you, perhaps even before venture capitalists. As a result, these people have a great responsibility. To which end you need to pick the perfect employees so that your startup doesn't stutter at its most vulnerable stage. In this video, we will teach you how to find the perfect staff for your startup. Essential positions. Now, these six positions are the first positions that you have to hire people into. There are going to be a lot of positions in your company, even in its earlier stages. However, there are positions that you can outsource and give to other people. Positions that are important but not extremely important. Stuff like web development or minor assignments or distribution. These can be outsourced or handed out. But these six positions in this slide are positions for which you absolutely need to handpick people because they will guide the future of your company. The first position is the CEO. This is the person in charge of your company's core aspects. They oversee the direction of your company, its goals, its identity, and even the company culture. To a large extent, the CEO will be the person who represents your company. And a lot of famous companies are synonymous with their CEOs. We have people like Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and Jeff Bezos who are synonymous with their company's success. They are quite literally the face of their companies. CEOs need to be charismatic, creative, and dedicated. But at the same time, you don't need to hire a person with these exact same traits. In most cases, the CEO of a startup tends to be the founder themselves. So rather than hiring someone into this position, you should focus on molding yourself to fit the demands of this position so that you can represent the product you created with pride. The next position is the CEO or the Chief Operating Officer. Now, this person is the one who is in charge of the day to day operations. A large part of their role overlaps with the CEO. However, while the CEO is a larger scope person who handles the general direction of the company, the COO handles daily operations and more minor fluctuations in the company. They are like the vice president of the company. And a lot of data, information, and numbers goes through them before being passed to the CEO if it is of appropriate importance. This person will be your second in command if you appoint yourself CEO. And as a result, they need to be adaptive, flexible, and observant. Third, the product manager. This is the person who is in charge of strategy, planning, design, and the development of your product. Your product is the most important part of a startup, and your product manager is going to be the person who takes your product and turns it into something special. They are very important because they offer a second perspective. They are not the people who have developed your product, but they are the people who are emotionally distant from your product. As a result, they can criticize your product while you will be emotionally attached to it. An advantage of this is that they can look at your product from a market oriented perspective and turn it into something that the masses will appreciate. The Chief Technology Officer. This is the person in charge of everything related to engineering, such as the hardware and the software. The Chief Technology Officer is a very important spot in technology related startups, such as startups that build gadgets or automobiles. In other startups, the Chief Technology Officer crosses over with the Chief Information Officer. This is the person who manages your IT department and is in charge of much of the data related to your startup. The online, the virtual part of your startup, these are the people who will manage them. Next is the Chief Marketing Manager. This is the person in charge of advertisement, customer interactions, and public perception. The marketing manager is important because they represent the endpoint of your startup process. There is production, consumption, and distribution. And the marketing manager will guide the last two of these parts. The marketing manager represents your image, the image that the people in the market hold of your company. They will handle the advertisement, they will man the websites, they will make social media posts, they will make your product known. And as a result, it is important to allow them to understand the way your product works and to control its image. And last but not the least, the Chief Financial Officer. This is the person in charge of handling company finances and overseeing expenditure and sales. The chief financial officer is a huge part of startups because startups are fundamentally economic entities. They will handle your money at a time when money is extremely scarce. They'll make sure that you don't overspend, that all your hard earned money goes only into making the startup better, and they will make sure that there are no unnecessary expenditures. If your startup is a ship, then they will keep it from springing any leaks and carry it forward responsibly. Next, what are the traits to look for in an employee? The first is creativity. You should not think of employees as mindless machines who will just follow your orders. Your employees should be creative enough to put their own inputs. No matter where they are positioned in the company, they should give their own unique perspective on how to make your product better. You are the person who has come up with the idea and created the product, but that doesn't mean you are the last authority on it. Your product manager will look at it from a product oriented perspective. Your marketing manager will look at it from a market oriented perspective. And so you need to pick employees who are able to argue with you and who are able not to worship you but to give you important constructive criticism. Next, independence. You should not have employees who need to be handheld. Your employees should not live in fear of employee reviews. They should not live in fear of being reprimanded or guided by you. They should do their own job independently. They should be creative enough to handle their own positions. You shouldn't need to constantly look after them and tell them what to do. They should be people who fundamentally understand what a startup is and actively act to fulfill what your startup needs for success. The third is multitasking. You should not always look for people who simply fit into a job specification. It is very tempting for you to take reliable picks of people, but the issue is that a lot of people who have very specific qualifications are firstly unable to adapt and secondly already snatched up by major companies. Even if you have a person who is extremely good at a certain job, that doesn't mean that they will be able to adapt to the early stages of a startup. Because in a startup's early stages, things are extremely volatile and you need to handle multiple tasks. In a lot of startups, people have handled various different positions simply to keep the startup afloat. There have been a lot of founders who also had to hurry to do web development. They had to take care of the office, they had to supervise the community culture, and they had to go door to door talking to customers. And a big part of this adaptability is what made them successful because they were able to look at problems from multiple perspectives rather than putting themselves into a classification like product manager or marketing manager. So, while it is important to fulfill every post, do not think that your employees should fulfill the specifications of one post and one post alone. They should be able to improvise and to swap in for each other if there are issues. Next is passion. Your employees should be passionate. This is perhaps the most important trait that they need because in early stages of a startup, things are going to be extremely unstable. Your employees need to be passionate enough to understand this and to keep working regardless. Do not give up or get scared just because sales aren't up to mark, but to actively devote themselves to improving things. They need to understand that these early years will not be easy, and they need to trust that your product is so good and so special that all their effort right now will be worth it in the future. The next trait is community. And this is a very important trait, particularly for employees who will be working together. Each startup has a culture, each startup has a certain way in which it does things. A lot of people know startups as these organizations that are not regimented. They don't force you to wear suits or act in a certain way or behave with a certain etiquette. They allow you to be yourselves. And your employees should have that feeling. They should not be the people who constantly try to make an impression on each other, but people who are comfortable being themselves with each other. People who can rely on each other and think of each other as friends. Forming a community of employees who will help move your startup forward. The next trait is ambition. Ambition is extremely important for an employee. What you need in an employee is the desire to challenge themselves and constantly keep aiming higher. These are the employees who will push your startup upward. They will not get complacent. They will not settle for a small salary and a daily wage and constantly sit in their seats and keep your company stable. They will be people who take risks and make daring maneuvers exactly so that your company can reach new heights. And as a result, they will also stop you and other employees from getting complacent as well. And the final trait is professionalism. Now, while startups are known for their informal work structure, this makes professionalism all the more important. You need employees who understand that what they are doing is serious. You need employees who understand the value of effort. You need people who are willing to accept their own flaws, to own up to their mistakes, and to figure out the best possible way to address them. These traits are vital in any startup employee, and this might be one of the most important traits that they can have. An employee who has all of the aforementioned traits will be perfect for your startup journey. They will support you in the beginning and stick by you towards the end. That is all for this video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. If you have any doubts or inquiries, spell them out in the comment section. Remember friends, the TBL education wants to help innovators across the world fulfill their dreams.